What I hold in my hands is an experiment. I'm looking to see if I can add another cookie to my holiday table that's not going to eat up all my bites, points, or calories. And if you're looking for the same thing, I may have the perfect solution for you here. This is my experimental recipe for a cranberry walnut oatmeal cookie, something with the festive flavors of the holidays. But did this test recipe succeed or fail? You'll just have to follow along with us because even now, I don't know. But if you want to find out how to make these and what we thought, stick around because it's coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I'm a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is one of mine, but it's also a test. I haven't made this before, but I'm hoping that it comes out perfectly so we can have another Christmas cookie ready to go. I started December with my throwback video for the cake mix Snickerdoodles with a visit from Santa. If you didn't see that, go check that out. But I thought that I needed to have another cookie to the mix, and there may be more coming up. What I'm gonna make for you today is a cranberry walnut oatmeal cookie. And the bites and points on these are extremely low. And with the changes I've heard WW is making in the new year, oatmeal is one of their 0-point foods. If that's true, this might even be lower in points than I'm projecting it to be now, and it's already pretty low. But let's go over the ingredients. I have here 2 cups of quick cooking oats. Now, quick cooking oats are oats that have been cut a little more finely than old-fashioned oats. And these are not the instant oatmeal that you get in the little packets. Do not use those. You want to make sure that the canister says quick cooking. Sometimes they'll say 1-minute oats. So that's what we're using because I want a little less of the oatmeal texture. And I have these 2 separated here, not because I didn't have a large enough bowl for 2 cups, I do. But what's going to happen is one part is going to remain as is. The other cup is going to be processed into an oat flour. If you have oat flour, you could use that instead. You would just reduce those to 3/4 of a cup because when we process the oatmeal, it is going to shrink down from the 1 cup that it presently is now. Here I have 1/2 cup of sugar replacement, and I'm using the all-purpose in the raw, but you can use whatever one you like. Here I have 1/2 cup of cranberries, and those were frozen. I've let them thaw. We are going to cut those up. I'm actually going to be using the food processor to chop those up to make sure they disperse well throughout the cookies. And then we're going to process our oat flour in the same thing, so it's going to kind of infuse a little bit of that remaining cranberry into our oats. Here I have 1 egg, and that is at room temperature. You want all of your ingredients when you're baking to be at room temperature so they come together more easily and you don't end up with pockets of butter or pockets of egg that did not fully distribute. Here I have 1/4 cup of chopped walnuts, and you could chop them down a little bit more than they come in the chopped walnut package, but I find that to be just fine as is. You could also use whatever nut you like. Here I have 1/4 cup of unsweetened applesauce, and that is going to give us some moisture in these cookies, and hopefully 1/4 cup is going to be enough. I believe it should be, but we'll find out. Here I have 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and if you did want to change up the flavor, you could use 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla and 1/2 teaspoon of, say, almond extract or something else that you prefer. But I'm going with all vanilla so it doesn't detract from the cranberry and the walnut flavors. Here I have 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, 1.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And if you didn't want to use the nutmeg, you could leave that out. I do like the little nutmeggy flavor that it gives, but it's covered partly by the cinnamon, so you don't get a strong nutmeg flavor. So if you're not a fan of nutmeg, you can leave it out. or you really won't notice it too much, but it will give a little distinctive flavor to these cookies. All right, so those are all of the ingredients. Let me shuffle a few things around and we'll get started. Okay, so we're going to start off, as I said, I want to get my cranberries chopped up, so I'm going to put those into my food processor. And I'm just looking to chop them up. They don't have to be overly fine, but I do want them kind of small, just so, as I said, they'll disperse throughout the cookies. So it shouldn't take but a few pulses, maybe 5. Okay, so that was 5 pulses, and they are nicely chopped up. They're not too small. So now I'm going to take my little bowl that they were in before. I'm going to take out the little attachment here, and I'm just going to add these back into this bowl and get them out of here so I can then process my oats. All right, so I have the cranberries back in their bowl. I did consider, as I was dumping them out, that this might be a little wet to be making a flour in. I think I'm going to try it anyway, just because there's only a little bit of moisture. But if I find that it is a little problematic, I will just swap those and do the flour first and then the cranberries. But now I'm going to take 1 cup of the quick cooking oats and put those in. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to process this until it becomes a powder. You don't want any chunks left. Now, if you only have regular old-fashioned oatmeal, you can still use that. You would chop that up, 1 cup of it, to make quick cooking oats. Just a few quick pulses would chop it up enough to be similar to quick cooking oats, which is basically how quick cooking oats are made, just by chopping up old-fashioned oats to make them cook quicker. But I'm going to process this part into a flour. So it'll be just about 30 seconds or so. And you do want to scrape down in between about halfway through, and the oats aren't getting that wet, so I'm actually not that worried about them now. But let me do another 15 seconds or so. And that looks pretty good right there. Tiny little crumbs. It's not going to look as fine as flour would, but that's fine. If you're using regular oat flour, it probably will be a little more processed than this. All right, so those are done. Let me shuffle a few things again and we'll move on. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is mix together our dry ingredients, except for the 1 cup of oats that we did not process. We're going to leave that for the moment. But to this little bowl, I'm just going to add the processed oatmeal, baking powder, salt, cinnamon, and nutmeg, and just whisk those all together. All right, that looks good right there. So I'm going to set that aside. Bring in my larger bowl, and the applesauce, the egg, vanilla, and sugar replacement. And then we're going to blend this all together. Okay, that only took about 30 seconds, maybe if that. So now we're going to add in our dry ingredients and mix that. Just about another 15 seconds. And you'll see it's still a little wet in there, but that's because we haven't added the other part of our oatmeal. So adding this in will absorb some of that liquid. The other cup of oatmeal, walnuts, and the cranberries. And then I'm just going to take a spatula and stir this all together. You could use the mixer, but I don't want to worry about it clumping too much while it's in there. And so this is what our dough looks like right now, but we're going to give that about 5 minutes for that oatmeal to soak up some of that liquid, and then we will move on. All right, so it's been about 5 minutes. The oatmeal has soaked up some more of that liquid, so it's a little thicker than it was. Now, I have my bowl on a scale because I'm going to weigh out how much each of these is going to be. I have this set to make 18 cookies. Each of those cookies is about 27 grams as far as I have measured here. What you would do first is measure your bowl before you do anything. Write that number down in grams, and then make your dough, and then subtract the amount of the bowl from what you get with the dough in there. I got about 500 grams, and that's roughly 27, 28 grams each cookie. I thought I had a number 40 scoop, and I don't. I believe that would be the accurate measure. This one's a number 50, which is a little less than I wanted, so I'm going to make it slightly rounded, just so long as I get about 27 grams for each cookie. So let me move this over here, bring in my cookie sheet, and just scoop out 27 grams, and that's what I have here. So I'm just going to scoop those all out and get them onto the cookie sheet. And you want to reset to 0 each time you remove some, so that way when you take it out, you can make sure it's at 27 or 28 roughly. Now I am going to come back once I have these all portioned out and roll them up to make them a little more compact. But for right now, I'm just worried about getting these all out onto the cookie sheet. So let me get these done. All right, so I have the cookies all portioned out. They were closer to 28 grams each, but now I'm going to just roll them into a ball, because you can see they're kind of falling apart at the moment because I just scooped them out loosely. So I'm just going to take them, roll them around in my hands and put them back. And I have a little thing of water here just in case they start getting too sticky. I can wet my palms a little bit and keep it from sticking, but they seem to be okay at the moment. So let me get these all rolled up. Okay, I didn't need the water to roll them, but some of them, because we had loosely packed them, were a little resistant when I ran my hands around to make it into a ball. So if that happens, you just compact it a little bit more and it should be all set. Now what we're going to do is just lightly press these down to the desired size, because they are really not going to grow much more than this, or at least they shouldn't. As I said, this is a test, so I could be wrong, but I don't think so. But we do want to press those down, so I'm going to keep the water here just in case I decide that I want or need to dampen my fingers, but so far so good. And just press them down to your desired size. If they start to come apart at all, you can push them back together. So I'll finish these up and I'll be right back. Okay, I didn't need the water at all to help me press those down, but it is good to get your hands in there and, as I said, be able to shape them as you want them. Now, these are going into a 350-degree oven. I'm going to go for anywhere from 8 to 12 minutes right now, but I can give you a better idea of the exact time once I've made them. So let me get these into the oven, 8 to 12 minutes maybe, and I'll be back. Okay, there we have them, my Cranberry Walnut Oatmeal cookies. They were actually in about 13 minutes, and you want to touch and make sure they feel set. That should be sufficient. I'm going to give this a time of about 10 to 14 minutes for baking, and it will depend on a few factors. I think part of the reason my dough was a little more moist was because I had thawed frozen cranberries. If I'd used fresh, it may not have been as moist, and it may not have needed the extra minute or two. So you always want to start checking at the low end just to see where they are. Now we're going to let them sit on the sheet pan for about 10 minutes before we transfer them to the wire rack and let them cool completely. And I will also let you know what we thought of them in a little message down here. They smell great. I'm hoping that we enjoy them. And I'll also let you know if any changes were made. I probably already let you know when I was going over the ingredients in the little messages down below. But what about those nutrition facts? Now these obviously make 18 cookies. Each of those cookies is just going to be one Better Balance Bite or Old Blue Point. As I said, I'm not sure where it will fall on the new plan, but that's around currently where their plan is. If you have two, it does do that weird WW healthy math where it jumps up to 3 bites or points. But again, with the new changes coming to WW, maybe it'll bring it down a little bit in that regard. If you are following calories, the calories for each one of these would be 53. And if you are following macros, the fat is 2.1 grams. Saturated fat is 0.3 grams. Protein is 1.8 grams. Carbs are 12.6 grams. Fiber is 1.2 grams. And sugars are 0.8 grams for one of these cookies as they are made now. But I hope that you enjoyed coming along with me on this test journey And if you did, I'd appreciate you doing the usual: like, subscribe, comment, share, and hit that notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. I do have a video coming out soon for protein bar taste testing. And we've got 11 bars and then 1 package of protein balls that we're testing. So that will be coming out soon, but if you hit that notification bell, you'll be alerted when that happens. Also, I should be going live this Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. I say should because Paul's vacation starts this week, but if I do not end up doing that, there will be a post in the community center saying that there is no live, and also in the Facebook group, so you can check there. Now, the recipe for these will be on my blog. I will link directly to this recipe down below with any changes that needed to be made, and my blog itself is linked down there if you're looking for any of my recipes. Also down there is lots of other information, such as my social media, my stores, my Amazon storefront, etc. So check out that description box for all sorts of information. All right, well, these are just about ready to move to a cooling rack, and then we have to wait again to be able to taste test them. But you already know if we like them. I hope we do. From the smell of it, I think we will. But until next time, bye.